Because democracy basically means government by the people, of the people, for the people. But the people are retarded.
And the budget will balance itself.
Do I have to sue CNN?
Legacy doesn't mean nothing. I'm gonna die and it's gonna be over.
Welcome to her GDS Takes and Happy New Year. I say we get rolling. So, on Sunday, December 29, a Boeing 737-800 flown by Jeju Airlines in South Korea crashed upon landing, killing 179 out of 181 people on board. What a horrible way to end the year for Korea and honestly anyone concerned with airline travel. Experienced pilots considered the Boeing 737-800 a proven aircraft and a different class of aircraft from the 737 MAX jetliner. Also, one aviation expert said that despite several things going wrong, the aircraft was sliding on the runway in a straight line and injuries would have been minimized if it wasn't for the concrete barrier at the end of the runway housing what's called a localizer. This follows on the heels of the Christmas Day crash of an Azerbaijani airliner carrying 67 people in the city of Aktau in Kazakhstan. More than half of the people on board, 38, were killed, but miraculously 29 survived. In this incident, it is said that changing weather conditions and a bird strike caused the plane to change its course from Baku to Grozny, Russia, to Aktau in Kazakhstan. President Putin also said that Russia's emergency ministry sent a plane with equipment and medical workers to Kazakhstan to assist with the aftermath of the crash. Also on Sunday, the same day as the South Korea disaster, an Air Canada Express operator, PAL Airlines, also crashed on a runway upon landing because of landing gear issues. The plane thankfully did not crash into an unmovable wall like in Korea, but instead tilted to one side and hit the pavement. Everyone was offloaded by bus with no casualties. Passengers said smoke started filling the cabin, however. So in a span of 5 days, about 240 people have been killed in airline passenger travel. Man, what the fuck? I'm not gonna lie, I'm not totally comfortable about passenger flying myself. Any bout of sustained turbulence makes my palms sweat and makes me grab the armrests tightly, if you know what I mean. One thing I do to cope is whatever magazine is in the chair pocket ahead of me, I'll literally read the same paragraph or page over and over again, focusing on each letter and word until the turbulence eventually stops. Just on my last flight back from Mexico, a gust of wind nailed the side of our plane like a hard punch out of nowhere, spinning the whole thing to like a 45-degree angle. What the weather can do, especially the wind while flying, is no joke. I don't care what your politics or life preferences are. Once you're on an airline flight and sitting in that metal tube with everyone else, you all are on the same team and have the same interest in landing safely. To get into the details and understand what happened during the Jeju Airlines flight in South Korea, here is an article from the AP. South Korean officials said Monday they will conduct safety inspections of all Boeing 737-800 aircraft operated by the country's airlines, as they struggle to determine what caused a plane crash that killed 179 people a day earlier. New acting President Choi Sang-muk on Monday presided over a task force meeting on the crash and instructed authorities to conduct an emergency review of the country's aircraft operation systems. The essence of a responsible response would be renovating the aviation safety systems on the whole to prevent recurrences of similar incidences and building a safer Republic of South Korea, said Choi, who is also Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister. The Boeing 737-800 plane, operated by South Korean budget airliner Jeju Air, aborted its first landing attempt for reasons that aren't immediately clear. Then, during its second landing attempt, it received a bird strike warning from the ground control center before its pilots issued a distress signal. The plane landed without its front landing gear deployed, overshot the runway, slammed into a concrete fence, and burst into a fireball. Alan Price, a former chief pilot at Delta Airlines and now a consultant, said the Boeing 737-800 is a proven airplane that belongs to a different class of aircraft than the Boeing 737 MAX jetliner that was linked to fatal crashes in 2018 and 19. But South Korea's transport ministry said Monday it plans to conduct a safety inspections of all the 101 Boeing 737-800 jet airliners operated by the country's airlines, as well as a broader review into safety standards at Jeju Air, which operates 39 of those planes. Senior ministry official Ju Jong-won said representatives from the U.S. National Transportation Safety Board and Boeing were expected to arrive in South Korea on Monday to participate in the investigation. Ministry officials also said they will look into whether the Muan Airport's localizer, a concrete fence housing a set of antennas designed to guide aircraft safely during landings, should have been made with lighter materials that would break more easily upon impact. Well, no shit. Jeju said the ministry has determined that similar concrete structures are in other domestic airports, including in Jeju Island and the southern cities of Yeso and Pohang, as well as airports in the United States, Spain, and South Africa. Video of the crash indicated that the pilots did not deploy flaps or slats to slow the aircraft, suggesting a possible hydraulic failure, and did not manually lower the landing gear, suggesting that they did not have time, said John Cox, a retired airline pilot and CEO of Safety Operating Systems in St. Petersburg, Florida. Despite that, the jetliner was under control and traveling in a straight line, and damage and injuries likely would have been minimized if not for the barrier being so close to the runway, Cox said. Other observers said the video showed the plane was suffering from suspected engine trouble, but the landing gear malfunction was likely a direct reason for the crash. They said there wouldn't likely be a link between the landing gear problem and the suspected engine issue. Earlier Monday, another Boeing 737-800 plane operated by Jeju Air returned to Seoul's Gimpo International Airport shortly after takeoff when the pilot detected a landing gear issue. Song Kyun-hoon, a Jeju Air executive, said the issue was resolved through communication with the Land-Based Equipment Center, but the pilot decided to return to Gimpo as a precautionary measure. Jeju said officials were reviewing whether there might have been communication problems between air traffic controllers and the pilot. Our current understanding is that at some point communication became somewhat ineffective or was interrupted ahead of the landing and impact, he said. Ministry officials said Monday the plane's flight data and cockpit audio recorders were moved to a research center at Gimpo Airport ahead of their analysis. Ministry officials earlier said it would take months to complete the investigation of the crash. The Muan crash is South Korea's deadliest aviation disaster since 1997, when a Korean Airlines plane crashed in Guam, killing 228 people on board. The crash left many South Koreans shocked and ashamed, with the government announcing a 7-day national mourning period through January 4. Some question whether the crash involved safety or regulatory issues, such as a 2022 Halloween crash in Seoul that killed 160 people and a 2014 ferry sinking that killed 304 people. The Transport Ministry said authorities have identified 146 bodies and are collecting DNA and fingerprint samples from the other 33. Park Han-shin, a representative of the bereaved families, said they were told that the bodies were so badly damaged that the officials needed time before returning them to their families. I demand that the government mobilize more personnel to return our brothers and family members as intact as possible, more swiftly, he said, choking down tears. The absence of top officials responsible for managing disasters has led to concerns. We are deeply worried whether the Central Disaster and Safety Countermeasures Headquarters really can handle the disaster, the mass circulation Jungang Ilbo newspaper said in an editorial Monday. We also have an update on the Azerbaijan incident. Since then, it's been reported that the plane actually made it to Grozny in Russia, and after failed landing attempts in deep fog, had to turn around. But then the Russians closed air traffic due to Ukrainian drone attacks, and the pilot decided to fly to Aktau. Unfortunately, it seems that the airplane was brought down by weapons fire from Russian air defense systems responding to a Ukrainian attack. The holes seen in the plane's tail section are the most significant evidence. Here from the AP, it reports Azerbaijan's president Ilham Aliyev said on Sunday that airliner was shot down by Russia, albeit unintentionally. Aliyev told Azerbaijani state television that the aircraft was hit by fire from the ground over Russia and rendered uncontrollable by electronic warfare. He accused Russia of trying to hush up the issue for several days. Russian President Vladimir Putin on Saturday apologized to his Azerbaijani counterpart for what he called a tragic incident, but stopped short of acknowledging that Moscow was responsible. This shit is making me nervous, dog. I'm just sitting on my ass at ground level and reading about this shit. I hope it doesn't carry into the new year. The last time things were getting this weird and odd when it came to flight safety, as far as I remember, was 2014, 10 years ago. That was the year from hell as far as air travel is concerned. On 17 July of that year, you had Malaysian Airlines Flight 17 from Amsterdam to Kuala Lumpur, which was shot down by a surface-to-air missile said to have been fired by the Russians, but it could have just as easily been fired from Ukraine, as the plane was flying over eastern Ukraine. That crash killed 298 passengers and crew. At the time, the Donbass in the east was controlled by Russian separatist forces, and that makes 2 plane loads of people down in 10 years flying over Russia and Ukraine during military conflicts. For fuck's sake, here's a novel idea. Whenever there's an active military conflict happening in a region, how about we not fly a full international passenger flight over the region? On December 28 of 2014, there was Indonesia Airlines Flight 8501, which was flying from Java, Indonesia to Singapore. It was an Airbus A320 which crashed into the Java Sea, killing all 162 people on board. The really sad part is only 116 of the bodies of the deceased were recovered, meaning the rest were lost at sea. A report a year later by Indonesia's Transport Committee found that there was a non-critical rudder failure which prompted the pilot to do a reset of the onboard flight computers, which caused the plane to stall out, lose control, fall and fall into the sea. Man, who knows what the fuck could happen once you're in the air, dog. And of course, there was the infamous Malaysia Airlines Flight 370, which disappeared from radar never to be seen again on March 8. It was flying from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing, China, and was on a Boeing 777-200ER. It was last seen on radar deviating westward from its planned flight path, crossing the Malay Peninsula and Andaman Sea, with all 227 passengers and 12 crew presumed dead. I mean, what would the world even look like without international air travel? Pre-1950, to send large amounts of humans across countries and to different continents in a short amount of time via air would have sounded like magic. But make no mistake, once your ass is in that seat and the plane hits the runway, you're all on your own. So what bugs you the most about flying? Do you think what's happened right at the end of the year is a bad omen of what's to come, or just another blip on the radar of life? Let me know what you think below, and if you found value in this broadcast, hit like and subscribe. God bless the people who have lost their lives this year in flight crashes. I'll catch you later.